intelligence services for a long time, as you see on the Black Ops 101 page, if you want to be sneaky, the best way to do it is not to like have your actual, servicemen in uniform or your actual agents doing that themselves. It's for them to essentially manipulate unknowing third parties into doing their things for them. So one of the examples I used on the website was this group of anarchists that thought they were, overthrowing the government, but really they were just acting as stooges on behalf of the British Empire. And there's all kinds of psychology tricks. I call it old man spookery, where you can, with objects, with phrases, with various things, you can essentially hypnotize people into doing this. And this has been a trade craft that has been developed over hundreds of years. And so the military and intelligence services have been developing since the 40s ways to like, how can we do this electronically? How can we do this digitally? How can we do this in a more efficient manner? So microwaves are like the voice to skull stuff is one aspect of that. They have other stuff. It's one of the studies I have on the site, and if you click through the DARPA link there, you can see the actual study. It was being tested in Arizona, and it was this remote. It's called transcranial magnetic stimulation. So it's essentially they could sit in buildings across the street or wherever, and they can shoot magnetic waves at your mind and essentially get you as you're going through stuff on social media, right? They can track you and they can give you this burst of inspiration, right? Like, wow, this is really it. So if people out there, if you've ever like had this unnatural, like I came across this and I had this like burst of inspiration that, wow, this really hits home with me. That is something that could be artificially induced by this remote transcranial magnetic stimulation. And they can essentially get anyone to believe anything. At my high school in Central Texas, just a regular suburban high school, right? We had white kids, just average, regular white kids, grew up in a normal family, um, that went and they tried to join ISIS. Like they got arrested off planes in Turkey trying to make their way in to join ISIS in Turkey. And so these kind of mind control stuff is being tested, and it's been honed for a long time. So that's one way they could do it. Another way is with radio frequencies. So with this new, it's called beamforming, 5G, Wi-Fi 6, right? It's normally Wi-Fi in the past. You've had to have good lines of sight because it moves like these waves, like these ocean waves through the room, and kind of it goes around things, but it doesn't go through things well. And so this new beamforming stuff is a more directionalized radio wave that's more targeted, and it's much better for going through walls or for like giving you really fast service. But the problem with this stuff is that you can use that and you can essentially mess with people's minds with that. So if you think about your body, right, everybody has this energy. And if you were to take a spectrometer and to look at people's body through this spectrometer, based on your health and your emotional state, you would be giving off a specific type of energy, right? And it's a very, very specific, very, unique signature that you give off, and it can be different for each person. But when you can beam like a very specific frequency, radio frequency, using this Wi-Fi 6, using this 5G at someone's head, you can induce this like spontaneous burst of various emotions. You can induce this spontaneous burst of various health ailments, right? Um, if you guys recall in the court, right? I was sitting in that court, or I was doing my thing. I had just gotten the judge had just approved my request to represent myself there, so I was able to essentially unredact all the court documents and see who the people snitching on me were. So it was a big victory for me. And almost right after that, I just like started feeling this pain in my arm and my vision just went black and I just dropped
Oh,
on the floor, and they had a bunch of firefighters and people coming in there. They're like, "Oh my gosh, this guy's having a heart attack," right? And I'm a healthy 31-year-old guy, and so this is out of the blue, right? They could give you a heart attack. Julian Assange, in his one of his court hearings, he has a stroke out of nowhere, right? I don't know this for sure as far as this being the cause for Joe Biden because he's obviously old and demented. But when he was at, I want to say the Vatican or at the palace in London, he just like shit his pants, right?
Right.
And so that's another thing you could do. You could make people do that with that. So we've had everybody on our team when the FBI was coming after us from various times of time. We've had members of our team just either have these like out of the blue, right? They'll be great, awesome, like rock and roll in one day, and they'll have this like panic attack, existential crisis of where they're just like unsure about their entire life, right? That kind of stuff can be induced. A fit of like paranoia, panic attacks. You can do a fit of rage, right? So you can hit somebody with just this intense, like you feel all of your entire body. You are just furious, like raging. Um, and so it's really wild stuff. It's really dangerous stuff. And it's stuff that the government will deny even happens. So
Wow.
one of the examples, anecdotal examples I like to use is Kylie and I were out in the backyard one night and we were smoking. And all of a sudden, she's standing about 5 or 6 feet from me. She just grabs her chest, like, oh, I'm just like having this panic attack, like out of nowhere, right? We're chill, we're smoking, we're
Wow.
good. And she just grabs her chest and is like keeled over, like, oh, like hyperventilating, just like, and as she starts to do that, there's a bird that happens to be flying over her head, and the bird falls out of the sky, like still flapping his wings. It falls out of the sky into the ground in front of us, and the bird is hyperventilating so bad and having its own panic attack so bad that it can't even take off again. So it's like trying to flap its wings and trying to get back up off the ground, but it's just like tweaking out on the ground in front of us. And this thing is induced right at the exact same time that it's happening to Kylie. So this is
Well,
one of the more intense part of this whole mission is that we have all this mind control crap being targeted at us.